Hello, hello. My guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so late. Let's just jump right back into it. This is round 2 of the WPATH files. If you didn't catch the first stream, I would start there. It's just called the WPATH files. The WPATH files were released on March 4th by a man named Michael Shellenberger, who is the founder of the Environmental Project, I think. What is it called? Oh, Environmental Progress. It's like an environmental group. He's also apparently let's see. Hey, Helena. Hey, Susie. I might just make you guys my only 2 moderators and just remove any other wrenches that I have out, because you guys are like... I think you guys are like the ones. You guys are my 2 official, and it's perfect because you guys are both here frequently, and I feel like you guys kind of know the overall vibe. And like there's been times when I've had to give out wrenches just if it was like a really hectic stream and one of you guys wasn't here. So I know I have a few other ones out, but I think I'm just gonna make it just you 2. Okay, so I wish there was a way. They don't have like a list where I can see like all. I know a few people have them, but I'll have to go back and figure that out. So, all right, anyway, so the WPATH files was released by, it was WPATH, which is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, formerly the Harry Benjamin something or other, founded by Harry Benjamin, is the foremost authority on transgender healthcare or transgender medicine in basically the world over. Hold on for 1 second to fix this. Sorry. Make sure that all of our posters are up properly. All right, let's see. Are you guys... Hold on. Oh, my bad. Hey, guys. Yeah. Okay, cool. So WPATH, any organization that has any sort of protocol related to transgender health, which is really just medicalization, it's cosmetic drugs and surgeries, experimental stuff, is references almost across the board, gets their protocols and makes their sort of guidelines based on the recommendations handed down by WPATH. Now, as we've known, as gender criticals who have stayed close to this issue, have known that the recommendations that WPATH gives are bunk. We know that Genevieve Gluck has exposed for a while now that a lot of the members of WPATH have affiliations with other really nefarious sort of like, sexually predatory organizations like the Eunuch Archives, which is it's an internet-based international collective of men who have the extreme fetish of being turned on by the idea of either being turned into a eunuch or turning others into a eunuch. And a eunuch is somebody who's had, particularly, it's a male who's had his genitals removed. The stuff is very graphic. If you want more information on that, I did a live stream on the Eunuch Archives. It does a deep dive. It talks about a lot of what, Genevieve Gluck has uncovered and goes, further. Definitely check out that live stream if you want to know more. But we've known for a while that WPATH has been kind of like full of these shady characters. And, here's just more confirmation. Of course, it's being buried. It is not being reported on by the mainstream media. And, there's been like a few right-wing outlets that have reported on it. So that's why it's really important that we continue to just push this and sound the alarm. Now, as for Michael Shellenberger, again, he's the founder of this organization called Environmental Progress. This is their website, environmentalprogress.org. If you want the entire bundle of the WPATH files, you can find it here. It's environmentalprogress.org/big-news /WPATH-files. Okay, so environmentalprogress.org, and then you can navigate and find it. Now, this guy, Michael Shellenberger, It's Michael Shellenberger and Mia Hughes are the people who released it. Now, I'm grateful that they decided to release it under this other organization, Environmental Progress, because Michael Shellenberger does sit on the board of directors for an organization known as GenSpec that is headed up by Stella O'Malley. I've dedicated a lot of my platform recently to exposing GenSpec. I think that GenSpec seeks to position itself, basically is looking to take out WPATH. It is sort of naturally become the controlled opposition to WPATH. I don't believe that this will be the end of WPATH. I think that what's going to happen now is, I think WPATH will continue, but it will diminish in power. I think this is definitely going to, cause a lot of skepticism, and a lot of people are going to withdraw support. But understand, there will always be people who staunchly want to support this agenda. Why? Because you gotta understand, what is the number one biggest natural drive for men other than basic survival, right? But that actually their minds really categorize as basic survival. What is it? It's sex, right? It's sex, and it's accessing sex. And the reason why I think that men are more prone to things like paraphilias is because men, because they have a wide variety of different attributes and different things that they have to offer, and different things that, that either fall outside or within things that women want, men have to come up with, ever increasingly sophisticated and complex and different ways to attract a partner, right? The really, like if you think about men, what their core purpose of existence is, it's to attain a partner who will carry children for him. And because of this, men have this sort of like deep-seated anxiety about reproduction. That's why they employ different strategies, whether it's they will go real hard in the gym, or they'll build themselves up financially, or, they'll take coercive means such as, rape, sexual assault, things like that. And so much of who men become is because of their drive to sort of pass on their genetics. Now, women have less of an anxiety because we have more control, right? All we need to do, it's like the only piece that men really need to contribute to us is the genetic material, and it's easy to attract that. And once they've contributed that, we don't really need nothing else from them. Men not only need to contribute, need a woman and contribute genetic material to her, but then they need her to actually proceed with the pregnancy, take care of the pregnancy. They have to do a lot to encourage the behavior of somebody else, right? So a lot of the power is out of their hands. So it's like, they need to not only attract a woman who then wants to sleep with them. And again, women are naturally gatekeepers of their sexuality because of the level of investment that we have with sex and the potential for conception and childbirth. So, they need to do all this stuff. And if you look even like, in different species, look at the just elaborate mating rituals that males in virtually, all sexually dimorphic, sexually dimorphic animal species where you have, they're dimorphically reproducing, where there's a male and a female in the species needed to reproduce, where there's somebody who, they have a phenotype that's organized around small gametes, which is the male, and large gametes, which is the female. Look at just the intricate ways in which the males of those species have evolved to attract females, right? There's a reason even why in other species, it's the female who is the less attractive of the two, and the male who have like these beautiful plumes and, have developed these like dances and these beautiful, sing-song. I mean, if you look even with fish, the male, like for example, betta fish, the Japanese fighter fish, the males are the ones with the big, beautiful fins and stuff like that. The female's just real basic. Same thing with birds, you'll see even with like peacocks. Female peacock is like brown, has a couple of colors in there, but whatever, but it's the male that has these big elaborate plumes. And why is that? The woman doesn't, the female doesn't need to sit there and attract, because the female is already imbued with the value, right? She already has the thing that everybody wants, this sacred thing, this profound thing that is the opportunity of new life, of propagating the species, and based on whichever partner she selects will decide which way the species continues to grow and to progress. And for those who get selected, they're sort of immortalized through their offspring, from generations and generations, and they can carry on their genetic legacy. Whereas the males that don't get selected, their genetic legacy will die with them, right? Females have a lot less anxiety about this whole thing because, again, all we need to do is attract a male for really just one moment, right? And it's just enough to have sex, right? Now, obviously, women do have their own sort of anxiety about keeping a partner because, it's because of the level of investment that is put into raising a child, especially the fact that human beings have the longest immaturity period of any other species. I mean, again, it takes us 18 years to be even classified as legally adults, and I don't even think our brains are fully developed. Our prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until 25. It takes a very long time. That's a huge investment. Human beings are complex. We have a lot of needs. It's very expensive. So I say all this to say, but still, in terms of actually being able to reproduce, we really only need to attract males for one moment, right? And that's just for the sexual copulation. After that, we can replace that male if we need to. We can come up with other strategies to support ourselves. It is ideal if that male can stick around and be, integrated into the family. But for males, the opportunity to reproduce is in the hands of the female, right? And so they need to come up with a variety of different strategies. If you look at the cuttlefish and you look at other, species similar to that, the cuttlefish, the smaller males, now you get these huge Goliath males, and they're these big alpha males, and it's so obvious, and they kind of hoard all of the high quality females. And for these lower, these smaller, lower quality males, these, males that don't have the sort of genetic markers of, high quality genetics and whatever, and are not as large and don't attract mates in the same traditional ways, have to get clever. They come up with these other strategies. So these smaller males, what they'll do is they'll actually, because they can change color, they're kind of like chameleons, and they're like octopi, octopuses, that they'll change color. And the beta male in cuttlefish will change its colors to mimic that of a female because they're roughly the same size of a female anyway. So that's how they're kind of able to get past the defenses of the alpha male. And the alpha male usually stays around its females after it's mated with them to keep other males away. What the beta cuttlefish will do was it'll basically appear like a female, come in, and then it's kind of, it's allowed to pass into the harem area of the alpha male cuttlefish and the other females, and it pretends, and then it'll go and it'll mate with some of the females while the alpha male is right there and he doesn't realize what's going on. And then I guess a way that a cuttlefish says that they're done mating and they're not interested is they'll display a stripe along their side. So after the beta male has been able to mate with the females under the radar of the alpha male, then they'll display a stripe so that they're free to go, right? So human males are not different. And I believe that that's why human males are more prone to things like paraphilias because, and you have to understand, just because males develop all these different strategies, not every strategy that they develop is successful, right? There's a lot of males who develop really kind of pathological, unsuccessful, and broken strategies that kind of go haywire. We have these outliers, and they develop, there's theories about, how things like pedophilia develops and stuff like that. And it's the idea that males can have first access to a female. And again, it all comes down to males' anxiety about reproduction. So I say all this to say, men of every social strata have this sort of, anxiety about reproduction, right? Some have more than others. And, that's why I think an organization like WPATH will always exist. And I think that men will always be very heavily motivated by sex. You know, it's something that they have to go. Women are, again, sexually receptive, right? So we just need to attract. We just need to be there and attract, and things will come to us. Whereas men have to actually go out and pursue. So there'll always be these men who just develop these extreme, bizarre sexual strategies, and I think that they become exacerbated by things like pornography and other influences and reinforcers. And so WPATH will never fully cease to exist, because we're always going to have, especially as long as things like pornography exist and that begins to pervert the male sexuality, and as long as we have things like where we have a breakdown in just, you know, the family unit, and we have a breakdown, you know, now that we have things like, for example, men can access sex, and sex is not as tied to reproduction as it once was, now that we have birth control, right? So it's like, you know, men can really like now spiral off into these different weird things. And I think organizations like WPATH are really the culmination of male anxious sexuality. And, you know, again, if you look at the people who comprise WPATH, it's a lot of these powerful men, men in medicine and you know, and psychotherapy and related fields. And it's like they're interested, just like the eunuch archives, they're interested in creating the thing that they're sexually attracted to, right? The idea of the lady boy doesn't, you know, that it's like sort of like a half male, half female, has traits of both, really doesn't exist in nature the way that, you know, but once they're exposed to pornography and they start to develop a taste for something that doesn't exist, they want to find a way to materialize that thing. They're never going to just be content with just having it in their mind, right? So they want to create the thing that they're interested in. That's why you have, for example, people like Phil Illey, who will sit there and groom women like Laura Becker to embody the traits and qualities that turns him on. And what he's turned on by is the sexual, like the switch of role play, the sexual role reversal, where he gets to kind of be, you know, the sexually like receptive one in a heterosexual interaction, whereas Laura Becker is, you know, the one who's putting on a strap on. He talks about being like, you know, turned on by pegging, right? Which is a sexual role reversal between the male and female. But make no mistake, unlike with males, actual males and females, he's in control the entire time. He's still the larger, stronger one. He's still fully in control. You know, he likes the idea, no matter what, he's always in control. So I say all that to say, I think that what this is going to force WPATH to do is to evolve. I do think that now we're really going to put, I think with the leaked WPATH files, if it does finally pick up the speed that, you know, we need it to, and more people find out, it's really going to, unfortunately, rather than just be like most people being like, we need to tear down the whole system, people have been so kind of groomed into this concept that transgenderism is a thing and gender identity that they almost can't even like conceptualize that the time that existed before any of that was even a thing. That's why they always have to lie to us and tell us, oh, trans people always existed. You know, there's always been queer, and they go back and they look in, you know, our old icons and historical people and see this was really a trans person. They just didn't have the language for it. And, oh, two-spirit. And, you know, in the Torah of, you know, they talk about like the multiple gender identities in that, or the Talmud, I mean, you know, the Jewish Talmud. And it's like, no, that's not really the same. And so unfortunately, because people can't even conceptualize what it was like, that we just don't need this at all, it's going to force it into the binary system. Right now, we've had a hegemony where WPATH has been at the top and has been the only option, the only one controlling this entire industry. I think what's going to happen now is it's going to break into what we've already like have been predicting is going to happen. It's going to break now into a binary system. So you're going to have WPATH on the one side, and you're going to have GenSpect or a similar organization, but let's be real, it's probably going to be GenSpect because it's going to be on the other side. And now they're going to kind of be these like two polarities pushing in whatever, but they're really two halves of the same whole, right? They're two halves of the same whole. It's just another way that this is going to evolve. So it's important that we really keep an eye on this and that we continue to stay vigilant about GenSpect. A lot of people have been coming to me and be like, oh, you know, I think that like Stella O'Malley like gets it now. Bro, I'm sorry. I like God. I like, it's like, I feel so bad. And I like want to kind of like shake people. They're like, it's good news. They're like, we were watching Stella O'Malley on a wider lens. And it seems like she's kind of, you know, pulling back from her true trans and starting to realize like this more gender critical position that like all of this has to, you know, is bad. And I was like, are you guys like, come on, bro. Like, are you dead ass right now? Do you think the woman in like, 10 minutes has like revolutionized her whole position on things? You think that she's not motivated by other motivators that we don't, you know, that are not as obvious, that are below the surface? No, of course, she's not dumb. She's actually very strategic. This woman is very strategic and good at strategy. And that's why I do think she has maybe some like sociopathic or even psychopathic tendencies, because she actually doesn't care who it hurts. Clearly, she's not open. And to me, I think the way that you can tell if somebody is really nefarious, I think if you can tell that somebody's really nefarious, it's based in, it's the way you can tell is if people have presented to them evidence that their position is actually like wrong or harmful, and it's what they do with that evidence. If they take a minute to analyze it and be like, you know what, I need to kind of like digest this and think about this and mull it over and come back to you. And if you could tell that they're kind of like trying to like, you know, review everything, and that they're like realizing that they might need to expand or alter some of their previously held ideas, then you know that they just really hadn't thought of the other stuff that you would challenge to them, and that they, before their stance, even if it was wrong, was like a genuinely held stance, and they're actually taking a good faith opportunity to like. So whenever people say like, oh, what, people can't change their ideas, it's, well, it's like, well, it's all about how their behavior is, right? If it's like they started off true trans and then someone showed them evidence to the contrary, and they start to be like, well, no, yeah, they got a point. They start to incorporate what they're now being shown, and they're also willing to recognize that their judgment has not been infallible in the past. So that anytime someone challenges them in the future about similar blind spots, they're willing to listen, because they're like, you know what? Even though this is a genuinely held position of mine, I have been, you know, had some blind spots in the past. I've been mistaken in the past. Let me hear what this person has to say. We don't see that with people like Stella O'Malley. Stella O'Malley, people have been trying to show her in every way. She acts like everyone's coming at her neck. That's not true. People have come at her really gently and tried to show her stuff. She doesn't want to hear it. So she has a reason to defend the position that she's currently taken. And it's not because she thinks it's genuinely what's best for everybody, or because she has other people's, you know, the general public's well-being at heart, or she cares about the safeguarding of children for real. That's not what it is. For those where everybody's like, oh, like she's really changing, Stella O'Malley seems like she's really taking a new stride. Come on, bro. Come on. She's just trying to get everybody's guard down, you know, like while this whole thing happens, and is strategizing about the next move, right? She's really trying to distance herself from WPATH in every way possible. She's not dumb. She knows when to come off as being like, you know, oh, we're this safe, you know, oasis of gender critical thought, you know, come when she sees that people have been hurt by these pro-gender affirmation only models. She knows how to and she sees that people are becoming disillusioned with that. She knows how to capture those people when they're starting to distance themselves from organizations like WPATH. She's in a stage where she realizes she has to come off as benign and, safe, and we're not like them. We don't believe in all that sort of stuff. Trust me, her time will. She'll bring it back up. She moves in waves, and I'm starting to see that. So she's not dumb. She knows what she's doing. She plays dumb a whole hell of a lot. But don't fall for that. All right. Anyway, so let's get back to this video. All right, here we go. All right, let's get back to this fucking Joseph Mengele. Oh, for those who don't know, in the thumbnail is Joseph Mengele of Nazi fame and notoriety, because I thought it was apt. He was, the psychopathic, maniacal, evil surgeon of the Nazi era under Adolf Hitler, and he was experimenting on the bodies of unconsenting people, not unlike a lot of these people that we're going to hear from in about 2 minutes. So here we go. Let's get back into it. Again, this is this is part of the leaked WPATH files. These are videos of WPATH members basically admitting that getting informed consent is simply not possible with not only all of the children that they speak to, but the vast majority of their parents as well. So here we go.
That if this is your decision at this point in time, but that may change, and we're here to support you, whatever your decision is, and that you can always, continue to see us, continue to see the team, keeping engaged with young people and letting them know that it's okay to change your mind, it's okay to come back, and knowing that, people sometimes have to disclose things in their own time as well, so that while we hope things are disclosed in real time, sometimes people just aren't in a place to face their trauma and what's going on. And so even more so becomes important, I think, to have that ongoing care. And even if there isn't ongoing care, at least leaving the door open, that if patients or young people or adults even are in a place where they want to re-engage, that door is still open.
Yeah, there was a comment. There was a comment in the chat about sometimes our discomfort with asking questions, particularly pertaining to sexuality, and I think that's really true. I mean, we have not gotten to the place yet where it's just part of every typical kind of area that you inquire about, and I think that's really important, and is part of, and to not frame sexuality. I think the other thing that happens with sexuality is it gets framed as negative, all the things that we shouldn't be doing, rather than having a positive take on sexuality. And so how with youth and our adults do we just naturally feed that into the conversation, and how do we as clinicians get comfortable with sexuality and sexuality themes in a society that isn't very comfortable with it, but isn't comfortable with it in appropriate ways, is very comfortable with it in some ways that probably aren't very healthy. And so how do we teach people to do that? I think that's one of the benefits that I have working in a sexual health kind of clinic that has a gender component to it. And I think that's really important.
All right, thanks. And gone. We'll move on to our next case. Okay. If I can get my screen share to cooperate with me. Here we go. All right. Cases. This is a collective consideration. Several trans men in their late 20s, early 30s have done a range of social and medical interventions. They are now clear that in hindsight, if they had come out 10 years later, they may not have taken all the medical transition steps that they did if the option of a non-binary identity had been on the table. They don't like to be seen by others as male, but given the physical changes, don't feel like they have a choice. There are different intensities of how upsetting this is to them, but a common theme is not liking to be perceived as male by others.
Wait. So these are trans men. Yeah, the top person with a beard is a pooner. Case to several trans men. So they're talking about transition regret here, I'm guessing. Several trans men in their late 20s, early 30s have done a range of something in medical interventions. They are now clear that in hindsight, if they had come out 10 years, they might have not taken all the medical transition, and if an option of a non-binary identity had been on the table. They don't like to be seen by others as male, but given the... Okay, so they're talking about regret. So they're acknowledging that the affirmation only model that you know, dumb ass or governments such as Canada have decided to outlaw. Canada has made it illegal, right? If you are a clinician, a practicing clinician, and if you have an adolescent who comes to you in your private practice or whatever kind of practice, expressing confusion around their gender, saying that they don't feel like they're actually female, they think that they're really a boy, you're not allowed to sit there and challenge that. You're not allowed to say, no, are you sure? But you are, a female. Do you have, could it be that you are attracted to women and maybe you're confused about your sexuality and conflating your sexuality with a gender identity? You're not allowed to challenge it. The only correct answer that you can give without getting legally penalized is, that's wonderful. Oh, yes, of course. Well, then you must be a man. You must be a man. All because of WPATH's recommendations. And I kind of want to pull up at the same time while we're going through this, like WPATH's WPATH's guidelines on affirmation model. I wonder if we can get the, the standards of care. Here we go. The standards of care. This would be good to have as like a reference so we can kind of go back and forth between what they've actually has written in their standards of care. Yeah, the standards of care 8, which is where they include eunuch as a gender identity. Like, come on, bro. Come on. All right, let's see. Is this 8? This is the 7th version. Where's the 8th version? Let's see. WPATH guidelines. Or let's see. WPATH standards of care version 8. Although it'd be interesting to actually look at all of them because, I feel like maybe even some of the former standards of care were probably pretty bad. Follow the link to view the document. Okay, here we go. Why do they have that twice? Okay. Really quick. All right, so let's really fast look for affirmation. All right. All right. Yeah. Christ. Okay. So again, this is in the standards of care version 8 of WPATH. Not all societies, countries, or healthcare systems require a diagnosis for treatment. However, some countries, these diagnoses may facilitate access to medically necessary healthcare and can guide further research into effective treatments. Let's see. The goal of gender affirming care is to partner with TGD, transgendered, I guess, people to holistically address their societal, mental, and medical health needs and well-being while respectfully affirming their gender identity. Gender-affirming care supports TGD, I guess, transgendered people across the lifespan, from the very first signs of gender incongruence in childhood through adulthood into older age, as well as people with concerns and uncertainty about their gender identity. Each prior to or before after transition, transgender healthcare is greater than the sum of its parts, involving holistic, inter- and multidisciplinary care between endocrinology, surgery, voice, and communication. Sorry, I just bit my tongue. Primary care, reproductive health, sexual health, and health disciplines. Oh, hold on. Let me make sure you guys can see all this as I go through it. I'm up here. Health disciplines to support gender-affirming interventions as well as preventative care and chronic disease management. Gender-affirming interventions include puberty suppression, hormone therapy, and gender-affirming surgeries, among others. It should be emphasized that there is no one-size-fits-all approach, and transgender people may need to undergo all, some, or none of these interventions to support their gender affirmation. These guidelines encourage the use of a patient-centered care model for initiation of gender-affirming interventions. Let's see. Ideally, communication and coordination of care should occur between providers to optimize outcomes and timing of gender affirmation interventions centered on the patient's needs and desires and to minimize harm. Let's see. All right, let's just see. Okay. Worldwide, transgender people are sometimes forced by here. So right here, let's see. Oh, wait. Worldwide, transgender people, I'm assuming that means TGD. It's something like something gender or something. Transgender people are sometimes forced by family members or religious communities to undergo conversion therapy. WPATH strongly recommends against any use of reparative or conversion therapy. See statements. All right, let's see. Let's just quick look at their thing, because they call it the affirmation only model. They call anti-conversion therapy, which again is meant to elicit an emotion. The reason why they even use the term conversion therapy is because, again, they're trying to piggyback off of the sort of trauma and traumatic legacy that the lesbian, gay, and bisexual community face. Oh, and I was, by the way, really, really fast. I was reading through some of the comments in the John Euler. I was reading live chat, and somebody was like, "Oh, I'm unfollowing Brit because she's platforming this guy." First of all, this guy who's anti-homosexual or whatever. From what I've seen of his platform, and I haven't watched. Obviously, he has a lot. That doesn't seem to be a primary part of his platform. I haven't seen any of that stuff, but regardless, what I'm platforming in that exact scenario is his position on predators, right? His position on trans-identifying males and men who are gaining this system and this whole, transgender fallacy to access their intended target. Okay, I don't need to go through the man's entire Rolodex of every position he's ever taken on anything. I understand that he comes from he has experience in the church or whatever, but what I'm platforming is that. So I'm not, I again, people have a lot to say about him being anti-homosexual, but how about instead of just parroting that, why don't you guys take clips of things that he's actually said and done that you take issue with it, put it together in a video or a thread, okay? And actual receipts. I don't want to hear your interpretation or some kind of and then we can discuss it from there, okay? But that's not what the conversation was about. The conversation was about specifically that. I think it's a little bit pedantic to, and again, the topic of this channel is fighting gender ideology, right? So it's all relevant. It's fighting gender ideology. So yeah, again, and I also think that this idea that homosexual transsexuals. I've seen him definitely criticize homosexual transsexuals. And I think this idea that they're somehow this like golden cow, that they're this like, helpless, like totally benign counterpart to the autogynephile, I think is such a fantasy. I think that's bullshit. I think it's a whole lot different when you have a child who's like a pre-homosexual child who has, things being imposed upon them. And I think that that's horrific. Or I think if it's an adult that lives in a society where it's like very, very severely, where they risk like severe oppression because of their sexuality. But I'm sorry, okay, in 2024, the United States of America, even for the past 10 whatever years, we've enjoyed some of the greatest acceptance of LGBT identities that the world has ever seen. There's, there's protections in law. It's a hate crime. So it's like, if your specific community, if you're an adult and your specific community is not very welcoming or amenable to homosexuals and you're homosexual, you have the right to go get a job, earn some money, and go move somewhere where you have a better community of people. Okay, that's no one's responsibility to sit there. People are allowed to have to think that whatever they want. They're allowed to just be like, no, I'm not supportive of homosexual lifestyles or whatever. Okay, then move away from them. You know what I mean? Don't go live with them. When it becomes a real problem is when those feelings start to be encoded into law. Okay, we don't live in a society where homophobia or anti-gay rhetoric is actually encoded into law. We don't. Okay, so if you're in it, and all these people who are like, oh, but these adult gay and I think again, it's one thing if you got sucked in because we listen to like people like Carol, who's a butch lesbian, and she talks about how she was being like, like buying into people like Buck Angel's testimony and stuff like that, and thought that was a good path for her, was to go and transition, right? But there's so maybe there's these like social influences and pressures, but it is not the same as being in like Iran or Iraq, where like you'll literally get thrown off of a building if you're a homosexual. So the best thing to do is to transition to really protect your life. So if you're an adult in America living in the West, really like most places in the West, and you're a homosexual and you think that the best idea for you is to go and transition, right? And you're like, promoting that and whatever, I can understand if in the beginning you kind of, because of your own insecurities and stuff, but once it was brought to you that this really isn't the answer, this isn't what's best for you, but you still want to push at people like Buck Angel, who really does know better, who's been shown, who has heard stories from detransitioners, who has learned about the nature of this, how this is actually a very homophobic practice. It's trying to convert, this is the true homosexual conversion therapy, where you're actually making, like a gay man into a straight woman and a lesbian woman into a straight man, right? And if you're still insisting and persisting, then I'm sorry, at that point, I can't feel sorry for you anymore, right? Where I feel sorry for these homosexual transsexuals is when they got kind of influenced into it. And then after doing it, they quickly realize like, oh my God, this was a terrible mistake. I don't want to continue to promote this anymore. I don't want to influence other younger gays and lesbians to do this. This is a bad idea. I need to get out of this. But it's the ones, it's like Marcus Dibb, who wants to keep going. It's like Blair White, who wants to keep going because they get all these extra benefits. It's like, Buck Angel, who wants to keep going. That's why I support people like Carol, even though technically Carol churned out, right? It's because Carol realized what she did and was like, whoa, no. And I don't want to be responsible for influencing anybody else. So, yeah, Susie Glucksman, that's exactly it. The gravy train that became the Oppression Olympics became too profitable. It's easier to keep people emotionally whipped than let the harmony take over. Yeah, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys, but when you guys start yelling like homophobia or lesbophobia, like at any, even at the most mild criticism, that's when I stop caring. And it's when most people stop caring, okay? Because it really becomes just like, even when I was like fighting with like VF555 and it was like, oh, you're a lesbophobe. I'm like, no. It's like, so anytime I disagree with a lesbian, it makes me a lesbophobe. Anytime I point out that this lesbian is a toxic piece of shit, and that makes me, no, I'm sorry, no, you know, and that just it's manipulative. It makes people not give a shit. Okay, it makes people not give a shit. If I was such a lesbophobe, why the fuck did I have the woman, you know, at my house? Why the fuck was I like collaborating with this woman on, you know, she's this like, you know, hardcore fake butch or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you know, and I'm sorry. I'm allowed to have opinions about things. Okay. And I'm allowed to, you know, critique certain aspects of things. I don't give a fuck. You're homophobe. Come on, bro. Like, really, come on, miss me with the fuck shit, okay? Because it's like, I don't care. I don't. So, again, I'm not responsible for, you know, John Euler's entire repertoire of all of his opinions, and I'm sorry, but it's like, you know what? You know, people would have called it homophobia, the fact that, again, I don't think that gay men should be renting women's bodies to go and create these, like, you know, families that are not, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, whatever. Same thing. I don't believe in like the whole gamete trafficking and stuff. That has nothing to do with being a phobia. It's because I think it's dangerous once we start getting into this transhumanism stuff. And I think that children are entitled to their entire family. And as adults, we don't get to go and like play God because it fits into our own vision of how we wanted our life to look like. That's not how it works. So I'm sorry. You know what I mean? And it's like just so fucking whatever. You know, and it's like, you also have to understand, it's like, yeah, I think that like pure homosexuality is something that's like, you know, innate and inborn, but I don't think all types of homosexuality are necessarily innate and inborn. I think a lot of bisexuality is like porn influenced and things like that. That's another thing that people get mad. I don't care. You know, I think that people, again, if we're going to sit there and take at face value that porn influences men to act in different ways or to be attracted to things that they might not have normally or initially like developed an attraction for, then, you know, if we accept that as like, that's reasonable, then how are we going to turn around and say, oh no, everybody's sexuality is totally static and it's exactly how they were born? No. I do think that I see some like toxic levels, especially when it comes to like bisexuality, you know, and again, some of these like gay men and even like, you know, lesbian women like homosexual transsexuals. A lot of people who like claim homosexual transsexuals are actually bisexuals. I know a lot of like men are like, I'm a homosexual transsexual. Then you find out that it's like, no, you're just like, it's just convenient because you know that everybody thinks that they're this like benign, safer version of trans. And it turns out you're actually bisexual. So you really are autogynephile, right? And it's just like, so whatever. Whatever John Euler's fucking other stuff was, I don't see him making his entire platform around the fact that like we should take out gay people and stuff like that. And if that exists, then go ahead and compile it into a video, post it, and go do a critique. But what I was platforming the other day was John Euler's position on sex offenders and the way that they use other sophisticated strategies to get around the boundaries of people. Okay? That was what I was platforming. Okay? You know? So, no, I don't think I have a responsibility to dig into every single take that he's ever made. And if you have a big problem with it, go ahead and, like I said, make a video or do, you know, a Twitter thread, and let's see. Show me some of this stuff, and then we can talk about it from there. Whatever. Okay. Yeah, I just think that, like, sexuality and, like, the way that people act out, it's like, is it normal that people are having sex with animals? If you're going to sit there and say that everyone's sexuality is totally innate and inborn, then you have to accept that pedophilia is totally innate and inborn and it's just a sexuality. Then you have to accept that zoophilia, bestiality is totally innate and it's inborn and it's a sexuality and should just be accepted because it's who they are, right? If you're going to sit there and say that every single man who's having sex with other men is doing it because it's this wholesome homosexual thing and, he's just like a wholesome gay guy and he's, a great guy who just wants to live his truth. That's not always the case. That's not always the case. Some of these guys are just fucking degenerates who will fuck anything. Okay? It will fuck anything. And they're just as dangerous as any other man. And just because a man likes to fuck other men doesn't mean that he's somehow this, sweet little angel. There's plenty of amazing gay men who are totally on our side, who are, great. And that's who, we protect. But I'm sorry, but we got to stop, categorizing people based on who they like to have sex with to decide whether or not they're safe or benign, unless it's I think we should assume that any man has the potential and the capacity to be dangerous and predatorial, unfortunately, until they prove otherwise. But that's just how it is, right? Until they prove otherwise, especially when it comes to men. I just think in general, I think that female, women don't have the same sexual motivations. So it's we do have to scrutinize male sexual behavior, I think, in a way that it's really not necessary to scrutinize female sexual behavior. I don't think anyone's particularly at risk because two lesbians are having sex. You know what I mean? Women aren't predatorial in the same way, but it's but that doesn't mean that all gay men are actually a risk, right? It's but let's just actually, take it based on the individual. Yeah. So I don't know what you guys want from me, okay? I think that, we don't have, if you live in an area where it's a lot of homophobia, then move. You have every right to associate with who you want, but we do not live in a society that has, anti-gay stuff encoded into law, and maybe there's whatever the hell. So, yeah. Obviously, I fucking support, it's how many fucking, obviously, I stand for and I support LGBT rights, right? I stand for, I think that lesbian women in particular have been hit very hard by this gender shit. And, and I don't see, it's not just lesbian women are their own thing. They're women, right? They're women. We're a nation of women. So these are some of my sisters who have certain needs that are specifically vulnerable to this. So yeah, it's my business, right? I've even had people tell me that it's none of my business, that lesbian women and some of their issues. I was no, how the fuck not? Okay, because again, and that whole Exelansic tried to say that I'm lesbophobic because somebody told, when I was talking about how lesbian spaces were being decimated by autogynephiles, and somebody's yeah, but that's between, let lesbian women deal with that and handle that. That's not really any of your business. And I was no, it is, because A, I'm a woman, but I was and B, I'm a mother, and any one of my daughters could be a lesbian. And by the way, it's the business of all heterosexual women, because who's giving birth to the lesbians, sweet pea? Who are the mothers of the lesbians? Who are the sisters of the lesbians? Who are the people who fucking are give a shit about lesbians? Hello, there's a lot of heterosexual women in there who, yeah, it's our business to care. So, and then and because I said that, it's because, I was oh, because heterosexual women are the mothers of lesbians, that's why it's our business, and what affects lesbian women should matter to us. Excellence was trying to peddle that as me being lesbophobic. I was bitch, miss me with the fuck shit, the fake outrage. This is the type of shit that makes people stop caring. But of course, I'm not gonna let idiots like that make me not care about lesbian issues, because for every annoying idiot, there's so many other women who really actually are good and need our help. Yeah, no, I know. Excellency is not a lesbian. Let's be real. She only claimed a lesbian so that she could get clout with the rad femmes, and she's into AGPs and stuff. And I've never heard any proof that she's ever had any sort of like sexual interest in a woman before. It's like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, anyway. Yeah, they come after lesbians. But coming after lesbians is coming after women. You know what I mean? Like lesbians are women. You know, it's not like some separate like species. It's like they're still, we all, you know, and that's why I also say same thing with detransitioned women. It's like they still belong to us. You know, I've heard some of these like hardliners say that like, oh, once you've transitioned, then you know, you're out, you don't ever get a chance to be welcomed back to feminism. I'm like, that's not true. You know, that's not true. So anyway, oh wait, hold on for 1 second. Door is being annoying. Alright, so that's my spiel. I feel like every time I give a spiel, I'm sure that there's somebody who's now like, she's a lesbophobe, but it's like, guys, just for fuck's sake. Yeah, it's all connected. You cannot go after lesbians without coming for women. Yeah, I'm a coward. How? No, go ahead, Alex. Tell me how I'm a coward. I'd love to hear it. Let's hear what you have to say. Get the G. And it's like, I'm a coward. Why? Because I recognize male violence. Because I'm not sitting here pretending that, you know, gay men are uniformly safe. That like this whole thing that you guys have tried to like peddle to women, being that like, oh, like, you know, gay men are like the safe men to be around, and like, you know, they're totally benign on all this stuff. And the fact that I'm saying that no, all men have a potential for violence that could affect any one of us, and we shouldn't let our guard down to anybody, you know. So it's like, yeah, no, I want to see. I appreciate it. Hold on, let me see what he's. Luckily, I can still see it, but it's like, hold on. You're not even answering. What? Hold on. What question? Get the G out. What is a lesbian issue? I'm against gay. She's against gay men. Ella, what? You haven't asked a fucking question yet. You haven't asked a question yet. What's your question, sir? You saying I'm not answering your questions. I'm reading through all of your shit. You haven't asked a single fucking question. The fact that I think that homosexual transsexuals are also dangerous, as well as autogynephiles, that they're not like this, like, you know, special, like, safe group. Huh? How am I against gay men? Why? Because you're so used, because you honestly are probably still so benefiting and still programming from all this woke rhetoric that just like blindly says that like, oh, because you like to fuck other dudes, that means that like, what is that? What is the takeaway here? What is the takeaway here? How am I against gay men? What the fuck are you talking about? I'm against male violence against women. Okay? And the point is that all men are capable of violence. And all men, we should, you know, again, we shouldn't be accepting of some men just because they're using trans as a homosexual dating strategy so they can pick up more dudes, right? So that they can pick up more dudes. No, I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and co-sign Blair White as this, like, oh, cute and funny, you know, twink. Because he's sitting here and he's, you know, enacting this degrading, sexist, you know, woman face trope so that he can pick up dudes. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, it's all cool. Let Blair in. He's one of the good, nice ones. No. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Fuck out of here. Yeah, and also, yeah, it's like, bro, I don't give a shit. Why don't you go march for something? What rights do you not have exactly? Well, I'm really confused, though, for real. What rights do you not have? Which part makes you mad? Are you mad that I said that it's gross and disgusting and I don't agree that you and your whoever the hell should not be renting a woman's body to go buy a baby? Is that what made you mad? Is it because I said that men, homosexual, transsexual men like Blair White are not this like cute, benign people who should get a pass? Which part upsets you the most, sir? Which part upsets you the most? Because I said that men like Brianna Ivy, a homosexual transsexual man like Brianna Ivy, who has anal sex and who participates in sex work, is at a statistically high risk of contracting HIV. Is that the same thing that made Buck Angel mad? That's a fact. Go look up at the CDC, Centers of Disease Control. Alex, you mad at me? Don't get mad at me, baby. That's how it works. Get mad at anatomy and physiology all you want. Get mad at Mother Nature all you want. That's how it works. And if you have somebody who's so irresponsible like Brianna Ivy, who's going to go and have sex and engage in sex work while also, being in one of the groups with the highest risk factor for infection, and he's going to go after these DL dudes, most of whom are living with women who have wives and girlfriends that they lie to, and they go out and they sneak around and they go, fuck dudes like Brianna Ivy and then come home to their girlfriends. Yeah, no, I'm a little concerned about that. I think that's my business. I think that's my fucking business. What rights do you not have? What rights am I threatening, sir? Because you don't like when I point out some truthful stuff. I'm real confused. Really, I'm real confused. Yeah, and exactly. Happy International Women's Day, sir. I don't give a shit. If you want to go cry about, whatever the dudes that you're into, go do it. By all means, no one's stopping you. All right. Yeah, and it's also, how about all the fucking gay men who were sitting there doing drag, who are mocking us on a regular basis? How about the gay men who call us fish? And I'll let you guess why they call women fish. Right? How about the gay men who are, throwing, swinging on women over, men and things like that? Yeah, I have to pretend like that's real cute and funny. I don't. There's plenty of gay men who don't get into that sort of culture. But yeah, are there toxic things about, gay male culture? You fucking right there are. There's plenty of gay men who don't participate in that shit. So what am I phobic about? What am I phobic about? Sir? I don't care. And me taking down this me going after this gender industry is me fighting for you. Is me fighting for the next gay kid. Is me fighting for the next lesbian girl. Pre-lesbian girl, pre-gay boy. So that they don't ever have to go through this. Exposing that, yeah, you know what, sweetheart? It is okay to be the way that you are. And I promise you, just get through, I know when you're little, it feels like this is the whole world, but there is such a bigger world out there. And once you're old enough and you will be able to get out there and make money and develop resources, and you can go find your tribe, the people that love and accept you, and the people that are your people, you'll have your chance to do that. Now's the time for you to just be a kid and to play and to develop who you are. And if the culture that you're in is not ideal for you, you will have your time. Don't make life-changing decisions off of fleeting feelings. Okay? So, I think I'm putting in my work. I've dealt with... I've never really been involved in the LGBTQ scene at all. But since starting this channel, and this was really just originally meant to just be about women's issues and stuff, I've learned so much about the needs of gay men and lesbian women. And I've constantly, I've taken that up as a side thing. I've taken that up within all of this. If I didn't care, I would have ignored it and be yeah, fuck them. Okay? It's I saw, I'm oh, there's a lot that this is all tied in with the experience of lesbian and gay people. And whatever. And so I've taken that up because, yeah, if I didn't care, if I didn't give a shit, if I was like, fuck you guys, if I didn't like you guys, I wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't advocate for stuff on your behalf. Now, am I going to criticize certain aspects of the culture that I think is toxic? Yeah, you fucking right. You fucking right. But you want me to pretend like misogynistic gay men don't exist? No, I won't do that. I won't do that. I'm not going to co-sign men renting the bodies of women so that they can go play house with a baby, with a human life that needs its mother. No, I'm not going to co-sign that. Does that make me homophobic? Good. Good. You know, I'm here for women first. Includes lesbian women, bisexual women. I don't care what your sexuality is. I don't care who you love. I don't care who you fuck. I don't care who turns you on. If you're a woman, I'm here for you. Yeah, it's like people crying because talk to John Euler, who has some of the most critical experience with sex offenders, and it's making me like a homophobe. Bro, make a video. Make a video, and then I'll respond and acknowledge it. Yeah, I hate gay men so much. Yeah, I platform Kai, Decadence. I hate gay people, homosexuals in general, so much. And I platform Kai Decadence. I platform Shapeshifter. I'm been trying to get Rich. Well, I think, Richie's gay. Yeah, I hate them. I'm so disgusted. Like, come on. It's like, are you dealing with, you really must not actually have ever experienced real homophobia in your life to sit there and cry homophobia over such bullshit that you can't even like pinpoint what you find homophobic. You're not sure. You probably said something. Why? Because I won't sit there and co-sign your every whim and your every desire. I won't sit there and applaud it as stunning and brave because you went and stole some woman's baby and you're trying to pretend that like you and your partner are like, it's like a, normal family setup. It's like, it's different if you're saving a child's life who had no other option. But when you're trying to get these like designer children, no, I don't think that's cute. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's stunning and brave. I think it's fucking disgusting and despicable. And I think it should be outlawed. No, that doesn't, that's a privilege. That's not a right. I'm not co-signing any of this transhumanistic shit. I'm not doing it. Because I don't think that babies are toys. And I don't think that your desire to go play house with your boyfriend is more important than a child's right to their mother. Sorry. I don't care. Fucking entitled as shit. Yeah. Fuck out of here. Anyway, no, I know. It's just, the thing is, this keeps coming up, and it's just like, I just think that like some of these people are still so brain rotted by like all the woke shit and all of the sort of like social benefits that gave them to sort of shut down any conversation by like crying phobia at people. Then everybody has to just like acquiesce to them and say, oh yeah, of course, yeah, whatever you want. Yeah, no, don't care. Okay, anyway. Let's see, conversion therapy. I'm sorry, I've done so much as a straight woman who really, like, my life is not really impacted one way or the other by, like lesbianism or, homosexuality in general. I've fucking done of a whole hell of a lot. Hey, by the way, asshole, whatever your name, Alex or whatever the fuck, okay? And even all the, like, women are trying to say that, like, I'm lesbophobic or whatever. Yeah, that's why I sat there and I dumped a whole bunch of my own personal funds into putting together Turf Pride. And it was my idea to focus on lesbian women, lesbian radical feminists, and credit them as being the godmothers of this movement, making sure that they get their due credit. Creating a space where lesbian women can take the mic and speak up about their issues, okay? Yeah, I hate lesbians so bad. I hate gay men so bad. There are countless videos where I've centered lesbian and gay issues, and like I said, it's because I've discovered this stuff as I've learned more about this topic, and I realize that it matters, and because I care about the well-being of people around me. You know, I don't really like, there's nothing I did gain. All right. Anyway, yeah, I don't see a lot of gay men sitting here fighting for birthing rights. Hey, Alex, when is the last time that you sat there and you fought for, you know, our right to have home births covered by Medicaid? When is the last time I saw you out doing boots on the grounds in front of your local hospital where a woman was forced into a cesarean section that she neither needed nor wanted? When I haven't heard you speaking up about unnecessary episiotomies being cut into the pelvic floor of healthy young women giving birth, all because their male obstetrician gynecologist was too lazy and impatient to wait for the baby to come out naturally, that he just wanted to cut this woman and pull her out. And now she's having incontinence problems, sexual dysfunction, constant pain. I don't see you out. No one gives a fuck about, you know, mothers. And the difference is, I don't have any gay men in my life for real. But you got a mother in your life. You got a mother in your life. How about all the restrictions placed on mothers as they give birth? I don't see you out picketing. So it's like, yeah, how entitled do you have to be? We have to keep going more and more and more and talking about whatever your needs and your wants are and all this shit. But I don't see you doing anything for anybody else. We get it. You want to fuck dudes. That's phenomenal. Fuck as many as you want, bro. Fuck as many as you want. Enjoy. What the fuck does that have to do with me? I'm not impeding your ability to do that. Okay? You guys have the right to get married. I support that. I voted for all that. What you don't have the right to do is you don't have the right to rent women's bodies. You don't have the right to colonize women's spaces because you attract more men playing dress up as a woman than you do as a Twinkie dude. Otherwise, have at it, bro. Like, the fuck do you want from me? It's like the entitlement. Of course I don't hate gay men, but I'm honestly, nobody with even like a shred of intellectual honesty is saying that. No one with a shred of intellectual honesty is saying that. You're just saying that to win an argument, or for whatever reason, because you don't like me for some other reason. It's like, I don't care. Anyway, conversion therapy. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Yeah. So, all right, 6.5. We recommend against offering repetitive and conversion therapy aimed at trying to change a person's gender and live gender expression to become more congruent with the sex assigned at birth. I get it. I like fucking dudes too, you know? Like, I get it. Sure, I get it. I am also attracted to men, so I hear you. I hear you. I'm with you on that. All right, statement 6.5. We recommend against offering reparative and conversion therapy aimed at trying to change a person's gender and live gender expression to become more congruent. So again, I brought God, this was such a tangent. I bring all this up to say that they're talking about, these case studies, these 3 case studies, really fast just to bring it back up. These 3 case studies of people, it was trans-identifying females who talk about having post-transition regret and that they wish that they had known that basically they wish that people had like kind of challenged their sense of gender. Right? That no, you're not actually a man. They didn't really have the words or the compass. And that's why it would have been helpful if they would have had therapy that actually challenged them on their assumptions about themselves. And now, years later, after they've, done all of these things that they can't change. Oh, hold on for 1 second, guys. Hold on for 1 second. Sorry. All right, my bad. Okay, so now, yeah. And now they're like, what should we have done? Not mandate, affirmation only model?
To the extent they are seen as male. Cases, this is a collective consideration. Several trans men in their late 20s, early 30s have done a range of social and medical interventions. They're now clear that in hindsight, if they had come out 10 years later, they may not have taken all the medical transition steps that they did if the option of a non-binary identity had been on the table. They don't like to be seen by others as male, but given the physical changes, don't feel like they have a choice. There are different intensities of how upsetting this is to them, but a common theme is not liking to be perceived as male by others to the extent they are seen as male. I found this really interesting.
All right, so what would have been helpful is if you hadn't put this in your standards of care, guys. You know, this stuff that we've called out forever, and you've gone and actually literally put in laws to prevent us from challenging that. Those women are literally saying, had they been challenged a little bit, they would not have gone through with these horrible, life-altering, health-destroying decisions that they made. So statement 6.5, this is from the standards of care for the health of transgender and gender nonconforming people, 8th edition from WPATH. Statement. This is what the world organizations the world over are using. So we recommend against offering reparative and conversion therapy aimed at trying to change a person's gender and live gender expression to become more congruent with the sex assigned at birth. Some healthcare providers, secular or religious organizations, and rejecting families may undertake efforts to thwart an adolescent's expression of gender diversity. It's like the fact that they just immediately jump to like religious. They love to just paint that anybody who kind of sees concern with this, it's just like a religious fanatic, as if this is not a religion itself, as if the whole concept of transgenderism is not a religious belief itself. Let's see. Undertake efforts to thwart an adolescent's expression of gender diversity or assertion of a gender identity other than the expression and behavior that conforms to the sex assigned at birth. Such efforts at blocking reversible social expression or transition may include choosing not to use the youth's identified name and pronouns or restricting self-expression in clothing and hairstyles. These disaffirming behaviors typically aim to reinforce views that a young person's gender identity expression must match the gender associated with the sex assigned at birth or expectations based on the sex assigned at birth. Activities and approaches, sometimes referred to as treatments, aimed at trying to change a person's gender identity and expression become more congruent with the sex assigned at birth have been attempted, but these approaches have not resulted in changes in gender identity. That's such bullshit. Clearly it has, if the people are coming back later and saying, I was wrong about my gender identity. And they're talking about the treatments that they're talking about are really just therapy, just challenging people. So again, and it's under, this guidance that they basically outlawed this stuff. So much of the research evaluating conversion therapy and reparative therapy has been investigated the impact of efforts to change gender expression, masculinity or femininity, and has conflated sexual orientation with gender identity. Some of these efforts have targeted both gender identity and expression. Conversion reparative therapy has been linked to increased anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, suicide attempt. But again, transgenderism is conversion therapy for gay and lesbian children. We also got to go. Oh, God. All right, here we go.
Who would like to jump into this conversation?
This is a bit beyond my age group, but I think one thing that they could do medically is to talk with their hormone provider to see if there's a way. I'm presuming these people are still on testosterone. If they are, that they could at least lower the dose to something that's still bone protective and still would make them feel okay, but maybe would less stimulate like facial hair growth or the other kinds of things. I mean, their voice is not going to change, obviously, but there might be some room to play with the testosterone dosage just to make things a little bit less less masculine. Budgets are going to persist.
I think this is about goal setting. While I'm a surgeon, I do a lot of testosterone implants for patients. So I do Testapel implants. When I talk to a lot of patients, the majority of the patients I see are seeking virilization, masculinization. So I dose them to sort of physiologic levels. But I have sort of this cohort of patients that is seeking sort of, underdosing, but wants testosterone supplementation. So we sit and we talk about the goals of therapy, understanding whether, I have to explain to them that sometimes underdosing will not lead to cessation of menses, which is sometimes the actual goal, like not virilization, but cessation of menses. And so in those situations, we talk about, what other things we can do that may not have sort of either feminizing effects. A lot of our transmasculine patients don't want to be on oral contraceptive pills, etc. So sometimes I'll underdose testosterone in a pellet form, and also place an IUD in those patients. And so it's really sort of about discussing what their goals are. I'm now seeing younger patients, so not necessarily patients who were dosed on doses of testosterone and who are now working backwards, but I have a couple of patients in their 20s who sort of are on the side of the masculine side on the spectrum, but don't want to be fully masculinized, so I'll underdose them as well. And I think that there's a physiologic component to this, improving their sort of state of being and giving them a sense of well-being. But also, I think that there's this component of, I feel like I'm taking some steps towards masculinization, but not completely. So that makes me feel good. And I think that there's also, I think we, actually to this crowd, I'm not going to say undervalue. I think,
yeah, Sweet Sea Monster says, still bone protective. Is that what they said? You know what would protect children's bones? Not giving them wrong sex hormones. Like me, for example, I had to take exogenous hormones, and like they warned me about like the risk of osteoporosis, and it's like, kids can't, you guys, they sit there and they talk about how, trans kids who want to play sports and you're going to take that away from them. No one's taking trans kids' rights away to play anything. They just have to play with their biological sex. But you know who actually is taking away trans identifying kids' ability to play sports? When you interfere with the osteoblasts' ability to create bone mineralization, bone growth and density, when their bones are literally as brittle as an elderly woman by the time that they're like, 13, 14, 15, 16, and that they're experiencing bone fractures while all the other kids are playing, competitive sports. They've got to take it easy and be careful. You guys care so much about these kids' ability to play sports, yet you're making it so that it's actually dangerous for them to do so. And put them at risk for these severe bone-related injuries. It's like, it's all this stuff that they claim that they care so much about, that we need to have this whole societal upheaval. They really don't. They really don't, because then it's like they go and they just completely go 1,000 times further with the stuff that they're doing.
People in my, from where I'm coming from, undervalue the importance of giving a patient a sense of control of their transition and their care plan, which is not a foreign concept when we talk about, paternalism and autonomy, but certainly when it comes to this type of care, allowing patients to have some control over how their transition is or what it is really important. So even in
Helena Blavatsky says, and they can break a hip. Imagine being like 16 years old and having to worry about a hip fracture, and how that could impact you for the rest of your life. And once you have to have these surgeries and things, and our hip replacement at a young age, you're crippled for the rest of your life. My God.
Patients who've been on high dosing who want to work backwards. But like Dan just pointed out, sometimes you can't reverse everything, right? So there's some masculinization that will have occurred, but perhaps just giving a patient the sense of being able to control what's going to happen down the road is really important. Testosterone dosing for me, it's easier in the pellet form because you can really sort of dose to certain levels. It's from my experience, easier to control than intramuscular and subcutaneous dosing. But it's about goal setting and discussing, and so much can just come from a discussion of, I understand that what your goals are, and let me see if I can help you achieve them. Certainly that conversation's easier when it comes to hormones than it is surgery.
there a little bit. I think what comes up for me is helping people to explore socioculturally what it means to be masculine, feminine, male, female, because there's kind of the internal sense of it, and then there's also the way that gets perceived in the world. And it sounds like for some of these folks, like, for whatever reason.
Marlene Jansen says, when you're 16, you think life is endless and sickness is for the old. I remember I was invited to prom when I was like 14 or 15. I was invited to, I think, like a junior or a senior prom or something at a different school. And I remember after prom, we all went and we hung out at someone's house, was having like a big party. And on the way over, I remember my boyfriend, it was like my boyfriend. We were driving and there was a bunch of people in the car and I was in the front seat. And I think he had like a Mustang or something. And I remember hanging out of the window. I had this like beautiful blue prom dress on, and I was like 5'8", and I weighed like 115 pounds. I was super light, and I remember hanging out of the window and going like this, and I remember holding on and trying to like go and like touch, almost near like where the ground was, and he was like driving really, really fast, and I was just felt just like so insane, And it's like when we talk about the sense of like being infallible, I mean, my God, it just there to me, I really I had so much faith in my health and my strength, and nothing was ever going to take me out, and it really takes being. I think that's why like cancer was so humbling for me. I used to blow things off a lot when it comes to my health. And I even wonder, I kind of blew off some of the symptoms I had of cancer. And I wondered, like, if I had gone earlier. Thank God I actually did finally take it seriously, like, early enough. But it's like, life has to humble you to a certain point. And this is why it is our job to protect children during this time where they don't fully understand that we are human, that we are flesh and bone, that nothing is guaranteed, and that once you lose your health, it's gone. Once you lose your health, it's gone. Once you do these interventions and these things, you mangle some piece and everything is interconnected. It is terrifying. And they're just doing it based on these temporary feelings. We always tell kids who are suicidal, do not make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. Trust in the fact that this won't hurt forever. I mean, think about, I remember I had my heart shattered in college, right? My like college boyfriend, right? Totally broke my heart. I remember being so depressed and like just laying in bed, and I was making all these, I used to be like a painter, and I used to make these paintings about it, and I was listening to all these sad songs. And I remember really like in the moment feeling like I was never going to be happy again. I was never going to feel better. I was never going to love anybody again. I was never going to, if I loved anybody, it was just going to be, I would have to just settle for less. And I would never reach that level of love. And it's like, thank God I had people around me, and I had, enough that I was able to continue. And then it's like when all of a sudden I realized I was in love again with somebody else, years down later, even like with my boyfriend now, I sit there and I'm like, think about how truly like deeply in love I feel with him, and it's been years since I've thought about my other boyfriend, and I'm like, well, I really did. I healed. We can heal. Things can get better. Think about like your darkest moment in life. Things where you think, or times where you think, I'm never going to change, right? I'm never going to not want to be like this. I'm never going to not want to hang out with these friends, or do this thing, or identify the way that I do, or love this person the way that I do, or I'm never going to stop being sad, or I'm never going to stop feeling like shit. And then it's like one day you wake up and you're like, wow, I feel better. And it's been a long time since I've thought about that person who was my whole world at one point. Who was my whole world. Who I couldn't imagine that I was ever going to be able to look at anything and not see them. through it. And not only do I feel better, not only have I not thought about them, but like I am able to love other people. I am able to like be joyful again. You know, I am able to see myself not in conjunction to this other person. Things get better, things change, and when we allow children to make life-altering decisions based on this temporary state of mind, they become entombed in that moment forever. They become entombed and encapsulated in that moment of time forever. To me, it feels like the absolute opposite of what we're supposed to be doing as adults in order to protect children.
And it's more about how they're being perceived by others, and maybe kind of what others are then attributing to them or assuming about them, because they're interpreting them as male, when maybe that's those things, those aspects of maleness are not what they aspire to or what they want. And so I think it's all about kind of that therapy around what does it mean in our...
All right, JJW says that nothing compares to you bedroom cry. Bro, I don't know what it is about me as a person. I love wallowing in my like despair. Like I love it. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like the self-flagellation. I don't know if I think I have a little bit of like a anxious attachment style. I've really tried to work on it, you know. But like it's that like, oh, like I'll just wallow. I'll like light all the candles in my room and like take a bath and like just fucking like play every song that makes me want to die, you know. And I like scroll through pictures. Like I love like re-traumatizing myself. Just crying and like being just totally ridiculous. And like my friends like will stop by and like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, what? Like, you know, and just like writing all this like poetry, like writing a letter that I'll never get to send, you know, and just being so fucking cringe. Like I love it. I love it. I love like just being fucking ridiculous. And it's like my best friend Marielle's the opposite. She's like an avoidant personality where she's like, get away from me. I have like her boyfriends will like contact me. They're like, how do I get Marielle to like, you know, care about me? I'm like, no, she does. She loves you. She just like that. She's just fucking like that. Whereas me, I'm like so dramatic and like, yeah, I like wallow in despair. I'm like so dumb. I am like that, you know. But if I'm 36 at this point, I'm probably never gonna change. It is what it is. I've accepted it.
Our culture to be kind of what does gender mean in our culture, and how is that going to play out for how you see yourself and how others see you. So it's kind of those deeper conversations.
I just want to add something here. I appreciate what you were just saying, Diane. One of my
this one's definitely a pooner at the top, and we know it is. She acknowledges that she's a pooner.
With my transition was losing automatically being perceived as safe by females who I was meeting for the first time. And it was a very strange experience to be walking in a parking lot, you know, following a woman out in the parking lot from the grocery store, and to realize, oh, she's looking over her shoulder to like see, am I following her?
Oh, God. So here comes the pooner talking about how, yeah, again, and this is exactly the thing. And they're like, oh, it's so silly. Oh, am I a threat? And it's like, yes, women, again, this is also why I think it's so wrong for adults to cosplay as the opposite sex. Because, so the pooner at the top, this is a trans-identifying female, right? So this is a female who took cross-sex hormones and whatever the hell else. And she's talking about how, oh, once I realized I was starting to pass was I would be like walking behind a woman and she would be like checking back to see if I was behind. First of all, they all tell this story. So it's kind of like, are you sure? Like they all tell the same story. I think it's like, again, this is like the pooner version of AGPs being like, yeah, I walked by a construction site and all these, you know, dudes started whistling at me and be like, hey, baby, you know, and I was so nervous. I had to like walk by like, yeah, sure, we bet? Like, okay, sir, you know. And I feel like this is the pooner version of that. Like, I was walking behind a woman and she was nervous and looking back. It's like their way to like brag that they passed, but like, who knows? But like, I've heard a lot of pooners tell this exact story. But it's also why it's so effed up, because it's like, as women and as mothers, we have to be able to make a very snap judgment about whether or not someone is safe or dangerous. We have to be able to look at somebody and immediately see, like, if we should be crossing the street, should we be creating distance? And you guys are sitting and you're playing all these stupid games and making our lives so much more difficult. So that we can't just like, oh, you know, even like Blair White is like, oh, you know, as long as you pass, you can go right in. And Blair White is like, the ethical thing to do is the thing that creates the least amount of, you know, uproar. You know, if you're not creating uproar, then it's fine for you to go in. It's like, no, there's a reason for the uproar. The uproar itself is not the issue. The reason why people get upset is because having men in our spaces puts us at risk. And if you're just, you know, great at masking and hiding who you are, and you're able to do these elaborate things, that's not a good thing. That puts us even more on edge. And then they say how, like, oh, you know, it's transphobia that creates, you know, it's causing like real women to get questioned at the door. Yeah, that's because of you guys. So you have these like butch lesbians or just butch women in general, which I know Carol says I shouldn't use the term butch for whatever, gender non-conforming women in general, who are, you know, who maybe look masculine or whatever the case may be. And then you have some women who are nervous, and now you were like, oh, are you sure you're a woman? It's like, yeah, that's because of you guys. We're put on edge because of you guys, because now we don't know who we should trust. Before, it was this sort of like, you know, it's you can see who people are. Now you guys are taking all of these, like, you know, these designer drugs and surgeries to change your phenotype, and it really makes it difficult for us to know how to react towards a stranger. Thanks a lot, miss. Thanks a lot. That's why I just throw all these pooners into the pile with the rest, because it's like, I can't be bothered with it. Yeah, exactly. Susie Glucksman says this problem never existed 15 years ago. From you know, since time immemorial, it never existed.
Or to be in an elevator and have, you know, somebody kind of scoot just about as far away as they can. And it was a loss, candidly, not to be perceived or assumed to be safe anymore. So I can easily see that some of these things
I know. TPS says the life sucks to be honest is like one of the best handles on here.
Really distressing social impacts of being perceived as masculine in our culture. So, looks like you wanted to say something there.
It's not about being perceived as masculine in our culture. It's about being perceived as male. Males are a potential threat to women. All males, potentially. Does it mean that all men are a danger? No. But we have to assume that any man is potentially a threat. And visually we can see which men might be more of a threat. This is why it matters, you know, if you want to be respectable in society, you know, hold yourself with a respectable appearance so that people don't have to feel on edge around you. It's like, but they don't care. It's all funny. It's all games.
Kind of the other way too, right? I mean, so many of my trans feminine adult and even adolescent clients talk a lot about, they hear about it theoretically, but it's not until it happens that they really get it, like not being given as much airtime as they become perceived as a woman. You know, kind of all of the things that feminists have been saying for a really long time, I think start to become more clear to people. And I think those are some losses or just some realizations around how gender plays out in sociocultural spaces. And kind of what is that going to mean, and what meaning does that have for people? So I think it
I know, Helena, you got to give me your. Do you have a Cash App? If you don't have Cash App, like Venmo or something, yeah. And Helena was on her own for the most part. Helena, this is why I love like so much love and appreciation for Helena. Because she has definitely held it down during some like pretty like intense streams, and she was the only one in the room. So that's why like Helena has my like forever love and devotion. Helena, you got to give me your Venmo or Cash App. I don't care if you don't want it. We're going to support you because we love you. We love Helena.
Goes both ways because gender is such a powerful mediator. Whether we like it or not, it's such a powerful mediator of sociocultural spaces and interactions and environment.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that. A lot of us are youth focused or heavy in our practices, or young adults and minors. But one of my mentees, who I think is on this meeting today, and some other folks have talked to me about, and I've even had clients as well who are adults.
Make one.
Male at birth,
you got to make one and then send it to me.
Privilege and safety that they experienced in the world was really disturbing, and particularly some of the older folks were actually detransitioning, retransitioning for reasons of fitting in, not just either around job stuff, but sometimes to be able to go into assisted care facilities with less hassle and a greater sense of safety. So I think there are other issues, again, outside pressures sometimes. It may not even be the internal experience that we need to be able to be aware of supporting people for.
Yeah, I do see. I appreciate it. Helena is fair, because I've seen her a few times where like there was once or twice where she was like, I can't tell if this person's a troll, and she like gives them a chance, which I want it to be like that, because it's like, I remember like Lisa Michelle's streams. It's like the second somebody's even like slightly critical of her, she's like banning and blocking everybody, and it's like, all right, bro, like so like I do appreciate it. But then like Helena also doesn't put up with like the F shit, you know what I mean? She doesn't put up with the fuck shit either. She's like swift. I feel like she's gotten it down well, so I appreciate that. She's good.
Different contexts that we may be encountering. So, right. Yeah, one other thing
I know. Todd Gack says the WPATH combo is boring as shit. I know. I'm like, find myself like glazing over. It's also because it's Friday and I like don't give a shit about anything right now. And I'm like texting my boyfriend like, because he's like getting off work. So I feel like I'm not paying attention, but it's important that we know. So I feel like the earlier parts were like critical, but let's keep listening. Let's just try to stay focused, guys. Let's stay focused. It's Friday. We got this. Let's stay focused. And Susie Glucksman, I feel like Susie Glucksman was a great choice for like my second mod. That's why I think like Helena and Susie are probably going to be my like power team. I think that's a solid choice.
But in this case, I think that it underscores that in the outset, we also may help people explore more non-binary options. I have a young person I'm working with right now who's been on blockers for about 2 years. Mother's anxious for the kid to come off. The pediatric endocrinologist is saying, maybe go a little longer. And the kid is vacillating.
The mother is anxious for the kid to come off puberty blockers. Mothers, listen to your gut. Learn to. One of the things that we talk about too as doulas, I remember when I was like, mentoring, especially younger women or women who were like timid or women who were like abuse survivors or English as a second language. I was working up in North Jersey and I was a community doula. So we were like free doulas for women who were in these like very vulnerable kind of critical situations, and we were getting paid for by the state. And that's what we were hired for, was because the thing is New Jersey had like some of these horrific intervention rates. So I know like one of the hospitals that we worked with had like a 60% cesarean birth rate, which is insane. So, and I used to talk about that a lot during my prenatal visits with a lot of these mothers while they were pregnant. I said, listen, your birth, even though I want home birth for everybody, but it's, it's not everybody is comfortable with a home birth, and not everybody has, some women do have risks that, exempt them from being able to have a home birth. So some women do need to be in the hospital. So I said, listen, this is going to be your time this is going to be some of the earliest times, the first opportunity that you have to learn to hone your voice to speak up for your child. And it's like it's trial by fire. They're going to throw you right into the gauntlet. And there might become times when these doctors and these nurses that have all these, letters behind their names, and they seem really official, and they're saying all these big words that seem complicated and authoritative, are going to tell you things and say that they're going to want to do things. And you might decide that you don't want that for yourself, that that's not how you envisioned your birth going, that, after we kind of are able to talk about it, you decide that that's not, necessary for right now, and you don't want to go along with whatever suggestion that they make. You need to trust that intuition and use your voice to speak up and say no. Either no, I don't want to do that, or what would happen if I choose not to, right? Don't just sit there and swallow that discomfort. If they're telling you something that you feel like is not really what's best for you, because please remember, not every physician in that position would agree with whatever that doctor is telling you, okay? Don't assume that just because that doctor right then and there is telling, oh, you should do this, you should have a AROM, an artificial rupture of the membranes right now, just to speed things along. There might be 10 other doctors who would be like, no, she doesn't need that, right? Use your voice. If you feel that feeling in the pit of your stomach, that means that you need to speak. That means that you have words in your stomach and in your heart that have to come out. So use it, and you let me know, and I'll hold that space for you. That's my job. Saying I want to, and I'll say, well, hold on, doc, I think she has some questions. And that's your time to say, what if I were to choose not to do that? What would be the problem? Then the doctor has to either say, oh, you'll die and everybody will die and the whole hospital will blow up and, children everywhere will die. Or they'll say, well, we'll have to just wait and see and monitor, and, it's not the word, it would technically be safe and fine for you to choose not to do that. I just think it would speed things up, right? That's your time to speak. Learn how to say no, because in this world, you are the first and last line of defense for this baby, this child. This is your baby. Nobody knows this baby the way that you do, and you stay connected, and don't let people talk you out of that and make you think that there's somebody who just knows your child more and is a better decision maker for the child. There is no better decision maker for your child than you. So they're talking about how, we've had where a mother was feeling like, it's time for the child to come off the puberty blockers. They've been on it for too long, but the endocrinologist wants them to stay on. And that to me is the most heartbreaking thing, because it's a lot of these parents who, some of these parents are like these trans housing by proxy parents who kind of push their kid into this for whatever sicko reason. But then there's other parents who are just wet blanket parents who, again, because they had every white coat in the world saying, oh, this is what your child needs. This is what's necessary for your child. If you don't do, what would you rather? A dead son or a living daughter? A living trans daughter? Which one do you want? And it's the same thing that they do this to pregnant women all the time. Do you want a dead baby or you want a living baby? It's like, sir, it's good and goddamn well that is not the only options in this case. And it's so sad to hear about these parents who it's like they know internally that something is wrong, that this isn't right, that this isn't good. And it's like the sunk cost fallacy, or, they're buying into the expert fallacy. Well, these people are experts and they're telling me I should do this, even though my gut is telling me that I should get my kid out of here. They're all saying that I should keep going with it. I don't know what to do. Parents, please, God, learn to just honor that voice. Be your child. There's times I've had to do it. And it's scary. And it's scary, and you say, you know what? Fuck it. You step up and you say the thing that your heart is burning to say. Challenge them. Don't think that anybody in this world has a better interest for your child than you. You grew that baby in your body. You be the advocate. You are the best one who can advocate for that baby that you grew in your body. Where did I go? Here we go. It's just sad.
Really not wanting facial hair, but about having menstrual cycles and kind of vacillates about whether breast development, chest development bothers them or not, and which pronouns they use. And we all know that chest surgery is pretty inevitable, or at least it looks like that, because that has consistently been a bothersome thing. So is there more benefit of staying on blockers or letting the kid switch back to their endogenous estrogen? Or is it better to go low dose testosterone, or what, and at what point in time? So if the kid doesn't want facial hair, but maybe doesn't mind their chest growing, if they're planning on having chest surgery anyways. So we may want to, be creative in how we help folks approach these situations that are complex. All right, so I'm going to shift to the next one. I see we got a few other comments on, what people wanting. And being perceived male can happen very fast, yes. All right, let me try to get my screen to cooperate again. Okay, I'm going to read case 3 in S. 14 years, 11 month assigned male at birth who identified as female, preferred by previous mental health provider for gender dysphoria in the past year. No significant medical history. Gender history and initial presentation. Patient reported that year prior to presentation, a friend came out as bisexual, and patient reports it clicked. Hey, that's what I'm feeling. Did not initially share this with anyone, but then 6 months later told mom about being bisexual. Felt this confused mom. Around the same time, patient also reported looking pretty cute and pretty, wearing female clothing. Reports always having felt this way, but never acted on the impulse to express itself using feminine clothing. Patient reports that 1 month after school started, came to the conclusion they were trans. Patient disclosed to an online friend first, then told girlfriend, who encouraged patient to tell mother. When patient told mom about identifying as transgender, reports that mom's reaction was unsurprised. Patient had been trying out different names and eventually chose the name Nora. Patient reported feeling dysphoric and that sadness goes hand in hand with dysphoria. Patient reported interest in starting gender-affirming hormones, but felt the gender-affirming surgery was scary. Felt that mother was supportive of starting hormones, but father was not, and this could be a barrier. Extensive mental health history, starting at age 4, including aggression, ADHD, oppositionality, depression, anxiety, and challenges with behavior. Multiple emergency department visits with behavioral concerns with no hospitalizations. At 15 years, 10 months, the family is open to the patient starting spironolactone, but not ready to provide consent for estrogen. The patient's excited.
Wait, what does it say? Extensive mental health history starting at age 4, including aggression. They can't diagnose ADHD until I think age 8. Oppositionality, depression, anxiety, and challenges with behavior. Multiple ED visits for behavioral concerns, but no hospitalizations since age 4. Maybe, the child, we need to take a look at the child's environment. And that's not necessarily, like saying that the parents are bad parents or bad people. But sometimes it's like, especially if you have like 2 parents who are working crazy hours and like they're not able to fully attend, and the kid is just in a lot of programming and a lot of other stuff. It's like, maybe it's like could we start somewhere else? You know, maybe this is just a cope. Again, the idea that, oh, if I was a girl, then I wouldn't have all these expectations on me, and I wouldn't have to be, you know, what you know, they expect me to be as a man, and if I'm trans, and again, also being trans kind of is like a get out of jail free card. It's like a card where you can just really do whatever you want and get away with it, and just kind of being seen as, oh, you're just different and quirky, and we don't, you know, you get all these accolades for doing the least. You know, you could do the least and still being like, oh, you know, wow, you're wonderful, and all of this sort of stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's like so again, this person is showing all this mental illness and distress, and we need to assume that what, because they say that they feel trans all of a sudden, that it's not, that's a real legit thing. It's not just a cope. Come on.
To start medication. Patient continued to follow the mental health provider 2 or 3 month intervals. At 6-month follow-up after starting spironolactone, patient reported that it felt more male and was feeling comfortable with he/him pronouns. Reported that I feel like a boy who wants to wear nail polish. Patient wanted to stop spironolactone and not interested in pursuing estrogen at this time. Plan for patient to continue to follow the mental health provider. Has follow-up appointment in 2 weeks. Anybody want to jump in here?
Again, another kind of happy ending. Kids happy, parents are happy. I think it's important to remember that not all kids are as smart as every other kid, or as in tune with their bodies or minds or as other kids, or as sophisticated as other kids. Some kids like just get things, and some kids don't, and it takes them a little bit longer. And the point is that just because you're 15 doesn't mean you know everything. And I mean, I tell kids this all the time. If you're 15, that's great. But you're probably going to know more than when you're 16. You actually better know more when you're 16 than you're 15. So I think it is kind of important to get an assessment, and this is our, you know, what our assessors do is to get a level of sort of capacity of not just able to consent for stuff, but like they're kind of understanding where they are, and do they understand that there's a difference between sexuality and gender and being trans and being, you know, cross-dresser. That there's more than one way of, you know, liking nail polish. You don't have to be a girl to like nail polish. You can just be a boy and wear nail polish, whatever. So I think you know, when these kinds of kids are working with their mental health professional, I think it is important for somebody to also really see, well, like this is a kid who's kind of not changed, but you know, it's changed their direction 3 or 4 times within a short period of time. That's not somebody you're going to want to rush in to do something permanent with. You're going to want to make sure that the kid really is starting to, you know, have a clear direction of where they're heading before you do something, and as well, you know, to make sure that the family are coming along with the kid. As sophisticated as other kids. Some kids like just get things, and some kids don't, and it takes them a little bit longer. And the point is that just because you're 15 doesn't mean you know everything. And I mean, I tell kids this all the time. If you're 15, that's great, but you're probably going to know more than when you're 16. You actually better know more when you're 16 than you're 15. So I think it is kind of important to...
You're 15. You'll know more when you're 16. In fact, you better know more when you're 16. How about let me do one better, ma'am. How about you'll know a lot more when you're 25? And maybe you shouldn't be acting on really anything permanently right now. Fuck.
Get an assessment, and this is our, you know, what our assessors do is to get a level of sort of capacity of not just able to consent for stuff, but like they're kind of understanding where they are, and do they understand that there's a difference between sexuality and gender and being trans and being, you know, cross-dresser. That there's more than one way of, you know, liking nail polish. You don't have to be a girl to like nail polish. You can just be a boy and wear nail polish, whatever. So I think you know, when these kinds of kids are working with a mental health professional, I think it is important for somebody to also really see, well, like this is a kid who's kind of not changed, but you know, it's changed their direction the 3 or 4 times within a short period of time, that's not somebody you're going to want to rush in to do something.
No. You guys made it so that clinicians could not question or challenge kids. She's sitting there talking about how, a kid who shows a lot of like indecisiveness and changes their idea on a lot of different things, and maybe that whatever. You guys made it so that it is illegal to challenge kids like that. They're just sitting there talking about, just because you like nail polish, you can like nail polish as a boy, doesn't mean it makes you a girl. Bro, what? Then what is the metric for deciding all this stuff if it isn't all of these superficial tropes and cliches? So the internal feeling? I don't know what it means to feel like a woman. I don't. I just am one. I don't know what that means. And I don't think any woman in here knows what that means. But we don't want to rush into anything. Then, now all of a sudden you're suggesting that the clinician has a bunch of discretion, discretion, and should, use their discretion. No, you made it so they can't. So it's literally illegal. You help push and promote that affirmation only model. How can they use their discretion and try to, promote deeper introspection?
Partnered with, you're going to want to make sure that the kid really is starting to, have a clear direction of where they're heading.
Yeah, Macy Gray says being a woman's a vibe. That's right, Scooter. It's so sad.
They do something, and as well, to make sure that the family are coming along with the kid.
Susie.
I will also add that, like, an anti-androgen,
I don't trust anybody who didn't drink from the hose as a child. I do not trust anybody who did not drink from the hose as a child. There's something wrong with you. It's not normal.
Spironolactone is a nice place to start because it's something that probably is not going to give you, irreversible changes. And so, if needed to help kind of clarify needs and goals and identity, it's a nice medication to use.
Yeah, I would second that.
I'm just mad that they're not showing the. It's like we don't need to see what these people look like. I mean, yeah, it's good to see who it is, but like, I wish that they would pan over a little bit to the. Apparently, I could actually put these up at the same time. Hold on, I'm gonna have to cut this short soon, but I feel like my attention span is like a little bit non-existent right now. Let's see. Oh no, this is something else. Damn, I thought that they had the actual. That sucks. I thought that they had, because he was saying that there is a PowerPoint. I thought that they had this PowerPoint, but it's like, if you don't have this PowerPoint, why wouldn't you pan over so that we could read what it says? They keep whoever the like whistleblower is. I don't know. There had to have been a better way to like get a screen capture other than like physically like recording it, but maybe not, because I guess they had to go on a what's it called, a computer that they couldn't do that on, but still.
And wanting to move forward, then we would probably use Lupron, because Lupron works better. It's way more expensive. But I think Lupron, without a plan of moving towards estrogen for this kid, would just make this kid feel crappy, probably, because she is well through puberty.
Even they know.
So she's probably just going to feel like...
Because she, it's like even they know it's all dumb.
Like whatever a teenage kid would feel when they have their testosterone taken away, kind of, whatever, menopausal. So I think just to affirm that, I think Spiral is a really good way to go, because it's harmless, it's cheap, it works for the beard. It's not going to prevent the bigger boy changes that happen with male puberty, but it is a nice way to kind of ease into things, and often for families, for parents that are kind of holding back, it's a nice way to move forward. That's affordable, cheap, safe, and reversible.
It's not reversible.
I'm noticing a lot of stuff.
When you prevented a child from developing and they're missing crucial time. That's not reversible.
Chat that I think the medical people could maybe address that kind of comes from how fast testosterone maybe works, and does low dose affect that? I can just noticing that.
Yeah, I mean, so it's true. I mean, we all, adult men all have the same testosterone levels, but there's clearly a different range of like how hairy you are, or how fast you go bald, or whatever. And it doesn't have to do with your testosterone levels. It may have to do a bit with your testosterone receptors and a million other things that you inherit in your genes. So I always kid the Persian kids that come and see me. I'm like, don't even look at the bottle. You're going to get a beard, like, because we know it's going to happen really fast. And then some of our Asian kids, they try forever. They could barely get a mustache going like their brothers. And so, but everybody has the same level. It's all the same dose. So you do have to let people know that just because you're taking dose X doesn't mean you're going to get results Y to the same extent. And the same is true, of course, for girls taking estrogen, breast.
I will also add that like an anti-androgen like spironolactone is a nice place to start, because it's something that probably is not going to give you irreversible changes. And so, if needed to help kind of clarify needs and goals and identity, it's a nice medication to use.
God. How do these people look at themselves in the mirror every day? How do they not just be like, I'm so disgusting?
Yeah, I would second that. Like if this was a kid that was clearly binary and wanting to move forward, then we would probably use Lupron, because Lupron works better. It's way more expensive. But I think Lupron, without a plan of moving towards estrogen for this kid, would just make this kid feel crappy, probably, because she is well through puberty. So she's probably just going to feel like whatever a teenage kid would feel when they have their testosterone taken, like kind of, whatever, menopausal. So I think just to reaffirm that, I think Spiral is a really good way to go, because it's harmless, it's cheap, it works for the beard. It's not going to prevent the bigger boy changes that happen with male puberty.
That's so true. Right Now says, well, they don't look at themselves in the mirror. That's what their trans avatar is for. That's excellent point.
It is a nice way to kind of ease into things, and often for families.
I used to read crazy amounts of books as a kid. That's all I did. My mom would come and yell at me to go to bed, and I would stay up under the covers. And I'd pretend to be asleep. I'm like, what? You woke me up. And I've totally been awake the whole time. I used to read like crazy too.
Parents that are kind of holding back, it's a nice way to move forward. That's, affordable, cheap, safe, and reversible.
I'm noticing a lot of stuff in the chat that I think the medical people could maybe address, that kind of comes from how fast testosterone maybe works, and does low dose affect that? I can just noticing that.
Yeah, I mean, so it's true. I mean, we all, adult men all have the same testosterone levels, but there's clearly a different range of like how hairy you are, or how fast you go bald, or whatever. And it doesn't have to do with your testosterone levels. It may have to do a bit with your testosterone receptors and a million other things that you inherit in your genes. So I always kid the Persian kids that come and see me. I'm like, don't even look at the bottle. You're going to get a beard, like, because we know it's going to happen really fast. And then some of our Asian kids, they try forever. They could barely get a mustache going like their brothers. And so, but everybody has the same level. It's all the same dose. So you do have to let people know that just because you're taking dose X doesn't mean you're going to get results Y.
Sorry, my chat is being a pain.
And then the same is true, of course, for girls taking estrogen. Breast level, provided estrogen level is more or less in a normal range. It has much more to do with other genetic factors and body weight and stuff like that.
This is definitely boring.
All right, great. So I think we have time maybe to go into one more case, and then we may have some time for some concluding comments.
Oh, Scherzinger 3, are you the person who was formerly Cupcake? Cupcake. Bro, you're the one who was like complaining the entire Euler. Well, state your issue. Why don't you just like ball up? Tell us what the actual issue is. I don't want to hear any bullshit like, buzzwords like homophobia, like goo. Tell us what the actual issue is so we can respond to it, okay? Go ahead. What is it?
The biggest challenge is always there, the technology.
That was you. I'm not dumb. That was you. I can tell when people change their name.
Actually, the technology user is the biggest challenge. Okay, case 4. An AMAB person assigned male at birth, who is now 13, who early on identified as binary trans girl and took all social transition steps. Medically, the client is on Lupron, and she's not been in a rush to start estrogen. However, she's been very invested in doing so at some point in the future. Within the last 6 months, this youth has begun to identify more as non-binary, trying out different pronouns and names. She's very avoidant to have any discussions about what the shift toward non-binary gender identity may or may not mean in terms of decisions she's always thought she would make in terms of medical transition. When broached, will shut down and no longer engage. Have had some success processing when discussions are framed from an embodiment lens.
I can say a little bit about this case. I'm not sure whether it's one that I submitted and it just got kind of morphed and changed, which is totally fine. But I think the thing that comes up for me, if it is kind of based on one of the cases, is that it was very difficult to kind of the youth always kind of had it in their mind how their transition was going to work. I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. And it was all a very binary related kind of transition process in how they were thinking about it. And then as they began to kind of try on different non-binary identities and
Yeah, at the end of the day, listen, as far as I'm like, you guys gotta understand this platform, like, yeah, like I created it, but I don't own it. This platform would literally not be anything without you guys, right? So, like, in terms of the chat, as far as I'm concerned, Helena and Susie own the chat. Like, that's not even, I don't even get a say. I can have a say, but like Susie and Helena are the queens of the chat. They wield the wrench. That's their chat. So whoever they say has got to go has got to go. Who am I to sit here and get in their way? So if they want to boot somebody, that is their right, and I respect it. And that is, they are the queens of the chat. That is all them. So I will back up any choice that Helena or Susie makes.
They started to...
Yeah, exactly, Susie. This is from...
At least with the kid that I worked with, where we kind of got to was a general not wanting to talk about...
I know. So somebody said, sorry, H6F says, anyone actually listening to this boring BS? I know. We're so close. Let's just get through it. It's like 15 more minutes. I just feel like it's important to be thorough, and just in case something else. I feel like all the like juicy stuff was in the beginning.
Because they were just kind of at that place. But also that they really thought that if they said...
I kind of love Azalea Banks too.
And really delved into it, it would mean that their options for any of that medical transition that they had always thought they were going to do would be off the table. And so they were like, I don't want to explore the non-binary shift, because if I explore that, that means that I'm never going to be able to get estrogen, or I'm never going to be able. And it was kind of like having some education around, no, it doesn't mean that. What it means is we are trying to meet your embodiment goals. And if your embodiment goals are such that you need a certain type of medical intervention, then you need that medical intervention, and we can move forward with that. And you don't have to be afraid that that your identity is going to necessarily drive your medical decision. It's more about your embodiment goals are gonna drive some of the medical decision making. And so I don't know. That's kind of how we were able to get through that impasse.
I had embodiment goals.
So I don't know what other people kind of have to say about that, but embodiment is certainly a concept that I'm using a lot more of with my adolescents and children.
Oh, she does attack. I mean, yeah. Azalea, you gotta take with a grain of salt.
like, so the 13 and a half is sort of our kind of cutoff where we're okay to do hormones if everything, it seems like it's gonna work. But I always tell the kids, God, you're 13, you don't know everything. I don't expect you to know everything, and this is like a journey, and you're going to take us, we're coming along for the ride.
So you're 13, and I know you don't know everything, and I don't expect you to know everything, and this is your journey, and you're going to take us along for the ride. How does that make sense? So you're saying a 13-year-old, you just said a 13-year-old doesn't know everything, and I don't expect you to know everything, but this is your journey, and you're going to take us along for the ride. I'm sorry, children thrive off of knowing that there's capable, intelligent adults around them who are setting appropriate boundaries for them. So that is the most comforting thing in the world for a child, to know that, you know what, I have adults around me who know what they're doing, who have my best interest at heart, who are protecting me, who understand what I need, and who are capable to make decisions. So I don't need to be hypervigilant. I don't need to be on guard. I think it is a terrifying thing for a child when adults are all looking at the child being like, well, so what do you think we should do? And the kid's like, oh, I don't, yeah, I guess, I don't know, whatever. I can do what we want. Can I do what we want? You guys will let me? Oh, shoot. And it's like, it seems fun and exciting at first, but then it's like, it kind of sets in where they're like, oh, shoot, I don't know. I don't actually know what I'm doing. I know that kids know that they don't know. Deep down somewhere. That's why strong boundaries are fundamental for the confidence and health and well-being and the mental peace of a child. And you guys are saying, oh, we'll follow you into hell.
And, we start this. It doesn't mean you have to continue. It doesn't mean you have to go up. Every single time you come, I'm going to ask you what you want to do with your hormones. Are you happy where they are? And kids do shift with time. A lot of particularly the non-binary kids, think that they want to be initially more masculinized than they end up wanting to be, and they find that there's a
DC
dose that's gotten rid of their periods or whatever, and that they're happy on that dose, and they don't necessarily want to push forward as they had thought that they might at the beginning. So I think it's important that you just lay that out right at the beginning. You do not have to have all the answers. Even at 18-year-old, you don't have to have all the answers. Let's work with what we got today, and you keep letting me know.
Even if you don't have all the answers, let's work with what we got today. Let's make some life-altering decisions today based on, the little bit that you understand about the world. It's all right. We'll figure it out later. This is what these people are. This is sick.
But I'm going to keep pestering you. What do you want to do about this? What do you want to do about this? Or you're not ready to make any decisions. You don't even want to talk about it today. Fine, let's just see everything the same. And I think the kids need that space to know that A, they're in charge.
The kids need that space to know that A, they're in charge. Let me tell you something, miss, because you probably don't have any children because you probably did all this weird shit to yourself. Kids need to know that they're not in charge. Kids need to know that they're not in charge. Kids need to know that they're in charge of a few things in their life. They're in charge for their they're in charge of, making friends. They're in charge of a few responsibilities around the house. They're in charge of being a kid. But that the adults around them are in charge of all of the rest. The boundaries, the providing, the guiding. That's what kids need. Kids need to know that they don't need to overly worry about stuff, and that as they grow, their responsibilities will grow with them and their freedoms will grow with them, but it'll always be appropriately balanced to their actual age and their maturity level. Kids need to know that they're in charge. That's actually terrifying across the board. You just told us how kids don't know everything and that they're not fully developed already. But we'll just make decisions as they want, and if they're not sure, it's fine. We can wait, and whatever they do know what they want, we can move in on that. How irresponsible and insane are you? All the testosterone that you've been shooting up has really messed with your brain. It's really messed with you. Because that's not normal.
They're pushing them to think about it, like by asking them, and see, you know, they have permission to go backwards, stay where they are, go forwards to whatever degree, and I think that the kids, I think our kids are a little bit timid at the beginning, and they don't feel they can. I feel that there is a group of kids who say they're non-binary because they're not really ready to go full on, and as they go, they actually find, no, this is working for me. I really actually do want to go to the end of the binary there, but I think you just gotta let kids have that permission to do that.
Jesus Christ.
I'll just add in that this actually reminds me of a successful 30-something I have, who's very accomplished in their field, and was first aware in the last few years really more about their gender identity, and thinking, that they were identifying as a woman, and when first came really more open to their awareness about 6 months ago, took him a couple months to call me, then a couple months on my waiting list, and I've been seeing the person, a couple months now, and they were hesitant to acknowledge maybe a non-binary space might be good, maybe a fluid space might be good.
These people are even acknowledging that non-binary identities are bullshit, right? Because they're saying that, the kid might be saying that they're non-binary because they're not really sure that they want to go all the way, and that it's just a way for kids to kind of try to parse through. They're basically saying that, all of this is really kind of bullshit. And it's really all about seeing what they can get out of the kids, what they can get the kid to do, right? How far can we get the kid to go? We don't want to push them too hard. Just kind of guide them along, make them feel like it's their choice. The whole time they're affirming and affirming and affirming. Oh, he might start off as a non-binary and then, move towards the spectrum. No. I thought people were set in their identity. Which is it? That they knew who they are, and we need to make life-altering decisions based on that temporary that feeling. But now you're admitting that it's a temporary thing that can shift and change. You people are sick. My God, you should never, ever, you should really be put on Megan's Law. We need to have a list for people like you. You shouldn't be allowed around children ever. Ever. You guys should be so shamed that you feel like you can never show your faces in a professional space ever again. You belong in prison. Every single one of you belongs in prison. You belong in jail. You're sick. You should be paying restitution. You should have all of your property seized. Every dime that you've ever made off of the pain and suffering of children should be seized from you. You people are despicable. This is despicable. This is sick. All for the money. You people are sick. You're degenerates. Sick, every single one of you. Sick degenerates. How dare you?
And it's
How
hard to
dare
tell
you?
how much feels true to their gender versus how much is external factors, and that's kind of stuff we're sorting through with time. And I think they're feeling some relief to know that there are a range of medical options, and we're not. The fortunate thing is this person is not in a rush and has some ways of being able to express their feminine side with their significant other and friends and one of their family members from their family of origin. But my main point is that I've seen this in adults as well as young people. I mean, more mature adults, like 30-somethings. All right, so if we don't have any other comments on this one, actually, I would really like it if we could get to the next case, and then we could close up.
I'm just noticing that Jameson
It's another 10 minutes.
is telling us that we should look more at the chat. Jameson, is there a particular thing?
I was just wanted to draw your attention to the.
There's only 96 people in the chat. Everybody's like, this is so boring. I know, but it's good to know. It's good to know because when this stuff gets referenced, like we need to know what was said.
Q&A box as well as the chat. There were questions in the Q&A stream as well as in the chat.
I know these people are like, let's just end this already. Let's just die. Yeah, it is boring.
Just to make sure that
We gotta get through it, guys. Gotta get through it. Hit the like button. Hit the like. I love you guys. Please hit the like button. Thank you.
Yep. I've answered a few, but the clinical ones I can't.
Okay.
While we look at the Q&A, there's a couple coming up in the chat just about that embodiment discussion.
Yes.
It's a growing edge for me, and so I certainly don't want to misspeak, but my understanding and what I'm trying to kind of incorporate in my clinical practice is in some ways moving away from what is your identity, and therefore because you have this identity you're going to want to do these particular medical interventions to change your body, not having it be as identity driven, because I think that's been the historical basis of kind of how things have operated, and instead, regardless of your identity, what do you think about your body, and what do you want your body to be able to be, and how do you feel in your body, and what's going to help you feel better about being in your body, and how do we address some of that, regardless of what your identity is. And that might mean medical, that might mean lifting weights, that might mean eating better. I mean, there's a whole range, but it just kind of goes shifting your thinking from identity-driven interventions to more, for some people, more body-driven interventions. It is kind of is what I would try to say about that.
Kind of related to that, Dan, there's some questions about co-occurring diagnoses.
It's all like, let's just make it up as we go along. Somebody said it's like, yeah, they're like, arguing about a bunch of made up bullshit anyway. Again, it's like arguing about like Dungeons and Dragons. Like, none of this is real anyway. So it's like, it's whatever way we can figure out how to, like, snip and flip little kids. Otherwise, fuck it.
Considerations in the Q&A section, and I would just say it's hard to do it justice in a little bit of time here, but when there are co-occurring conditions of any type, I am more cautious and take a slower approach in terms of questions in considering both identity and embodiment.
It's true. Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons is like way better. My son was in a Dungeons and Dragons group. I think he like said it was boring, but like he tried it out. Dungeons and Dragons is definitely a better option. And kids are like, need something to like spice up their lives, definitely choose Dungeons and Dragons over this, please. Go to the Dungeons and Dragons club over the LGBTQ plus club. I'm telling you. Just trust me.
People and encourage people to look at things from all of those kinds of perspectives, and maybe try to get creative in asking them to, just as an example, who is somebody who you'd like to look like, who, not somebody who's a TV star who's super attractive, but just like kind of an average looking person, so that we're not engaging in a fantasy realm. of transition expectations.
I love that. Julia Soto says at least Dungeons and Dragons has a fixed rule book. Yeah, at least it's like based on like some standards and like, you know, framework, and there's some sort of like integrity.
Facial hair, no facial hair, chest of what size, flat, round, small, what? And sometimes those discussions are very helpful, especially with folks who may struggle with the identity piece. I think that also just we have to be careful when we recognize there are folks who may have things that make understanding.
Yeah, my boyfriend's really into anime, and I keep being like, I keep being like, watch some with me so I can like get into it. Like he's like, no, you're not gonna like it. You're not gonna like. Let me be the fucking judge of that, okay? And then we finally watched this really good. It was so good. It was this It was on Netflix. It was like a mini series, anime series about like Greek mythology, and it was so good. We like binge watched the whole thing over. Like we didn't have the kids for the day, so like on a Saturday we watched it like through the whole day, and it was like so good. Definitely worth it. Oh yeah, Avatar. Yeah. I have an Avatar T-shirt. I don't actually watch it, but I always get compliments on it by like other like, you know, they're like, oh, great shirt. I'm like, yeah, thanks, buddy. I'm like, I'm not gonna tell them that like I actually don't watch it. I'm just a poser. I'm a poser. He really likes Dragon Ball Z.
Identity more fluid or complex.
The Netflix one was good.
So I just take a lot more caution. That's what I would say. All right. I'm going to try to get us to that very last one.
Not wanting to take up more space, but since other people aren't jumping in, I think it just speaks to the importance of the intersection between sexuality.
I don't know. I'm going to ask him. I'm texting him right now. Someone just said, "Ask how is he taking the death of the Dragon Ball Z writer?" I don't know. He doesn't tell me that kind of stuff. I'll ask him.
Gender and how I think that the field of gender, it feels like the fields are very separate. As someone who's in both of them, I'm an ASEX certified person. I go to a lot of the sexuality conferences that are starting to care more about gender. And I think in the gender conferences,
Wait. They said that he's
very little
asexual.
I go to a lot of the sexuality conferences that are starting gender and how I think that the field of gender, it feels like the fields are very separate. As someone who's in both of them, I'm an ASEX certified person. I'm
an ASEX
I go to a lot of the sexuality conferences.
I feel like a lot of people who claim asexuality, like especially these trans-identified males, just do that to seem like non-threatening. Because I hear a lot of these like AGPs like, oh, well, I'm asexual, so I'm not, a predator. And it's like, oh, okay, sure, we bet.
That are starting to care more about gender, and I think in the gender conferences there's very little focus on actual sexuality. And so I think for me this case just exemplifies a way that they intersect, and I think there's lots of ways that they intersect, and I know that WPATH is going to do a specialty.
All right, I gotta go. I love you guys. Kids just walked in. I love you guys. Wow, we rocked for a while. I will see you later. We'll have better streams. This is kind of just like a necessary stream. We'll have more fun later. I love you guys. Thank you for everything. Please like the stream if you haven't already. Like, comment, subscribe. All of it. Have a great weekend. I'll miss you guys, but I will see you Monday. And hit me up in the comments if you guys have any topic requests that you would like. Let me know, and because usually over the weekend I kind of come up with what I want to discuss. So let me know. Love you guys. Helena and Susie, I love you. I love all of you. You guys are the best. Hit like. I'll see you later.